Hey guys, did you know that I have a Patreon where you can support me and plus get awesome rewards? Or if you're thinking to yourself, but Julian, I want even more bang for my buck while still supporting you, you can pop over to my Redbubble and check out my awesome store with new designs appearing regularly. But for now, enjoy the video you're about to watch. Hey guys, it's me, Julian Greystoke. I'm wearing one of my Garrus shirts. We're gonna play a game today called Filming During Allergy Season, so this will be fun. Also, I do have a window open, so you can probably hear cicadas and crickets and nature sounds. And I thought about closing the window, but then I was like, I like the breeze and I like the nature sounds, so if you can hear them and you don't like them, sorry, this is what we're gonna do. We are here with another book review! Yay! This is for a book that I found on BookTube. One of the people I watched said it was their new favorite book, and I was like, well, sold. I'm definitely gonna check this one out. That book is Jane Steele, which is a retelling of Jane Eyre. There are a lot of those out there. The main twist on this retelling of Jane Eyre is that Jane is able to murder everyone who wrongs her. Yes, Jane in this version is a murderess, and she is pretty good at it too. This does basically follow the story of Jane Eyre with several notable large changes, such as doing away with some of the most problematic elements from the original story. And also, in this world, the book Jane Eyre does exist, and our character of Jane Steele has read it and enjoys it. We'll get to how I feel about that a little bit later in the review, but if you're familiar with the story of Jane Eyre, it's a girl who becomes a governess and falls in love with her handsome employer after she went to a terrible school where she was mistreated. So let's talk about Jane Steele, shall we? Right away, I was struck with the problem that this book does have in trying to make a character who murders people but is also sympathetic. Like, you want to be able to understand her, but also to murder a lot of people, you need to have a little bit of a psychopathic character. And so this book does struggle sometimes keeping Jane likable as she kills people. One of those first moments that was an interesting dynamic for me was that she killed a kitten, but she also loves horses. So I was like, she loves horses and I love horses, but also she murdered a kitten. So I don't know how to feel. And that was a little bit my feeling through the whole book, as I had a little bit of trouble relating to Jane. And my cat Jane, he's here, his name is spelled differently, but I have no trouble relating to him, and he murders things, so I guess what am I complaining about? Sometimes this book struggles a little bit with telling instead of showing, especially if it's just trying to get across something that we kind of need to know for the story, but it maybe isn't necessarily need to watch happen, which is good and bad. Like at the very beginning, she's dealing with her spoiled brat of a cousin, and we are told that he has these tantrums and he misbehaves in all these bratty ways, but we don't really see it. So it might have been good to see it for ourselves instead of being told it, but I don't know if that would have damaged the flow of the story. So it's kind of one of those, when is it okay to tell instead of show situations. Although I personally would have liked to have seen it woven in somehow to their interactions just a little bit. We did get to see him behaving badly, of course, but some of the things that he supposedly did we never saw, we were just told that he did. We're also told of the things that Jane got up to while she was at her boarding school, and we don't get to see a lot of it. Like, she gets up to some shenanigans, she becomes a skilled thief at her school, and we don't see any of it. We're just told that that's the thing that happened. And that's kind of disappointing. I really would have liked to see more of Jane just like doing her thing at the school. So Jane and another one of the girls who it is definitely her crush. We got a bisexual Jane in this book. That's cool. Finally escape from the school after some murder, and they go strike out on their own, and I was really enjoying the jobs that they found for themselves. The friend is like super hyper innocent, and so she just goes out and sings on the street because she's just like this angel kind of character. And Jane finds herself a job writing like last letters and like descriptions of hangings and stuff like that for this little newspaper. And so, you know, you make up these last letters that inmates are supposed to have written, and they just kind of fill this niche of people wanting really dramatic, really morbid things to read. And I just liked it. I thought that was a really fun thing, and I was like, dang, I kind of want that job for myself, I'll be honest. Because, not only because this is following Jane Eyre, the original story, but because Jane is a murderess, she does encounter a preponderance of people who are just very bad and whom she has to kill. And it doesn't leave a lot of room for people who are nuanced, necessarily. Like, there's a couple who are kind of nuanced, but most of them are just evil, and it is a little bit disappointing, but on the other hand, you do gotta have characters that the audience does want to see murdered. I have a little bit of problem myself, and this is just personal taste, with characters who are just evil. Some people like a character who's just evil, but I prefer some nuance. Again, we run into a little problem of telling rather than showing. As Jane commits more murders, we're just sort of told that they happen. We don't get to see them happen. We don't get to see for ourselves how these people are evil that she's murdering necessarily. We're just told this person was bad because they wanted to do blank, and then Jane killed them using blank. And it was a little bit disappointing. I really wanted to be more in on the murder aspect, I'll be honest with you. When the murders were described, they were pretty fun, so more of that, I guess. I guess I'm just a horrible person, but I want to see some murders. I was curious, and now it's time to talk about this. Why does Jane Eyre, the book... oh, Jane is playing with my bookmark. I was wondering why he was kind of losing his mind over here. Guess I'll have to put that back inside the book so he doesn't attack it. Anyway, as I was saying, while I was reading this, I did wonder why the original book Jane Eyre existed in this universe. What it mostly kept doing for me is drawing attention to the fact that this book was based off of that one, and I don't know that that's necessary or even a good thing. I don't know. The other thing that it did is there were often quotes at the beginning of chapters and such from the original Jane Eyre, and it did show to me how the writing in the original Jane Eyre is superior to the writing in this book. And I don't know if that's a good thing, because this book was trying really hard to mimic the writing style of the original Jane Eyre, which we'll talk about. Well, we can talk about that right now. I mean, we don't even need to wait. Definitely trying very hard to copy that style of that time period, which honestly I don't like to read, but I was listening to this so I was able to keep going. But because it was trying so hard to copy that style, some of the turns of phrase were awkward or even hilarious, and I'm not sure that it was necessarily the best choice to do that. Sometimes it was very good and it really flowed and worked with the story, and sometimes it actively seemed to fight against the story. So, I don't know, I'm on the edge. I kind of wiffle-waffle back and forth about that, but when you put the original text of Jane Eyre into this book, you can compare them directly, and you can see where this one is a flawed imitation of the original writing in Jane Eyre, in my humble opinion. This is another Jane Eyre retelling that does away with a lot of the problematic aspects of Rochester. I'm not going to spoil too much of it, but I don't know, I always found the problematic aspect of Rochester to be somewhat intriguing. The things that he does, you know, the whole wife thing, the whole daughter thing, all of that, I wasn't necessarily like, oh my gosh, yes, heartthrob because of that, but I found it intriguing and I found it gave his character a lot more depth and nuance. And this guy, he kind of has all of those problematic elements removed. He has like some soul pain to deal with, but honestly, all the other characters around him are like, yeah, he's being really overdramatic about his soul pain and it's not as bad, and then you find out what it is and you're like, yep, he was really being a bit of a drama mama and he's fine. So, I don't know, I prefer OG Rochester. One of the things in this book where it does differ from the original is that Jane is actually planning to kill Rochester because he has taken a house that was supposed to be hers. She was supposed to inherit that house, and then she got sent to boarding school, and all this shit happened, and now Rochester has her house. And her original plan is to go in there and murder him. And of course, like every story where somebody plans to go murder an attractive person, they fall in love with them instead. And I'm not really sure what Jane's plan was, to be honest, because, like, if she killed him, she didn't have the paperwork yet or anything to prove that she should have the house. So is her plan just to kill him and then just start squatting in his house? I was a little confused by her plan. Usually her plans are better than that, it feels like. One thing that I hated in this book is that it uses a trope that fat people are evil. Every single person who is overweight in this book is evil and disgusting, and it is bad. Sometimes the kids in this book talk like adults, so if that annoys you, brace for that as well. Mr. Rochester in this one has white hair for no discernible reason. It feels like he was somebody's OC, like a character that you create in a video game character creation thing. It's like, and now I will give him white hair for no reason. It's not that he's old, he just has white hair. I have no idea. Was that a thing that the original Mr. Rochester had and I just completely missed it? And finally, I was disappointed. There is a bit of a payoff. Like I said, Jane's first crush is a girl from her school. Eventually they end up falling out. They're separated for a long time, but there is a resolution to that side plot. However, it was very brief, very rushed through, and I was pretty disappointed in that side plot. I was really hoping for more from it. I was even kind of hoping that maybe it would take the book in a whole new direction when that character came back in, but it felt very much like the author was like, oh yeah, I had that side plot for a while and this character should probably come back and resolve that issue. Okay, done. So that was disappointing, but overall, even though I had a lot of critiques, I did enjoy Jane Steele. It is definitely not a new favorite or anything, but it was interesting enough to read. It kept me entertained. But what did you guys think? Did any of you read Jane Steele? Are you fans of the original Jane Eyre? What are some of your favorite Jane Eyre retellings? Maybe I'll find a few more. I've heard that My Plain Jane is making the rounds and it's pretty good, so I might have to check that out someday. Who knows? My TBR is unreal, you guys. It's unreal. But I might get there eventually. Anyway, thank you all for watching. As you know, I post new videos Mondays and Fridays. All the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo for ease of your clicking. And if you do want to get my first reactions to every book that I read, you can follow me on Goodreads, where I will always give a short review of a book that I have finished before I post it here with a more in-depth review on my channel. And if you liked what you saw here but you really wished it was higher quality, then don't forget that you can support me on Patreon. All the donations on Patreon go towards getting me better equipment. And again, if you like what you saw here and you want to see more, feel free to wander around my channel because I have a ton of content. So go check it out if you like. I mean, there'll be more cats for sure. So it might be worth it for that. And I will see you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
Hey everybody, it is shout out time. Time for me to shout out to my amazing patrons, Kim, Sarah, and Savvy Panda. So if you want to be cool like these great people, then become my patron over on Patreon.